So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can set up the Klar DTC Naming Convention tool and UTM Builder. As I explained in the article, it's really important that you put some thought into what you need to track and how you want to track it, and that you are staying very consistent in the usage of your naming conventions. And our UTM and Naming Convention Builder allows you to do just that. So if you haven't read the article before, I want to have some guidance on how to name and how to structure UTMs. You can just click on the blog article link here. Otherwise, we've already done so. We can get started. So after you've read the article, you probably should have developed something like this for each channel. So breakdown of what you want to track in your campaign parameter, in your ad set or term parameter, and your ad and content parameter. And these are now all the different dimensions I want to add and I want to track for each of them. And where possible, I actually started to create a list of options that I want to be available for each of these dimensions. As I also mentioned in the article, like spelling is important. You shouldn't spell things in different ways. Uppercasing, lowercasing, and all leads to lots of problems. So you should be using lists as much as possible in order just to make sure everything matches up nicely. So let's move this over here. Actually, first need to make a copy of the tool so that you can start editing it and make the changes that, you want to have. So now that the document is copied, maybe just give this a new name. So this one we're doing for Facebook page. As I also said in the article, you probably will have different versions of these for different channels because there are differences from one channel to another. And so this one we're doing now here is for Facebook page. The first thing you can now do is decide what kind of separator you want to use. So basically separators used to split up different dimensions and you want to stay consistent also with that one. So I like to use a dot. And then the next one you can decide is what do you want to use instead of a space. If you have, different words or like a bit of a sentence for a name going on, what do you want to use as a space? And what this will do is check if there's any spacing in any of the inputs you have and turn it into, in this case, now an underscore. Okay. Now the base layout or the base parameters characters are decided. Now we can tell it here, okay, what kind of channels do we want to configure in this tool? So we're going to set Facebook page. So we're going to write Facebook page in here. And now we can pick the source and medium that we want to use for Facebook page. And we're going to keep this quite simple at Facebook page. Now we can have multiple channels within one sheet at once. For example, if you have a convention logic for like Facebook, Pinterest, Snapchat, TikTok, and everything, you could put it all in the same tool, but you can also create one tool for every single channel. So now we can start to configure our logic that we decided into this document. For the campaign here, we have 4 dimensions, and I can insert an idea. So we have geography, month, funnel, position, and campaign date. Now, what kind of type are they? There's 2 options. There's list and text. So list is for all these where we can actually have a limited amount of options that will be available within that dimension. And like I said, it's always preferable because it ensures that spelling is always the same. So geography is going to be list, month is going to be a list option, funnel position is going to be a list option, and campaign name is going to be a text because, there could be quite a few things in there. If you can narrow it down to make it also a list and just keep adding to it, that's ideal. But I'm just going to keep this as a text option. And so, let's see. All right. So they are all a list apart from the first two and the last one. So I can just put that all in here. Okay. And now we configured the dimensions that we want to have for each of these different UTMs. We defined our separators and our spaces. And now we can press update template here, which will trigger a little macro or script that basically prepares and updates now the builder in the sheet based on the logics that you've defined. First, need to give it the permission to run. That should do the trick. I just need to rerun it now. Now the script is done now. Now we actually can switch to the lookup section here, which is actually very similar in layout to the document we prepared here. So I can just go in here and copy over the rest of the formatting a bit here right now, but just going to make this quick so I don't waste too much of your time. So where we have a list, we want to add the list options to the document, and these can be updated later. So obviously you should have a good idea what's going to be in them because you spend some time thinking about what you want to track. But if there is a need to update these at a later point in time, then that's completely possible and not a problem. The format, add type, creative focus. I skipped the creative category. That makes sense. So let's get the creative focus. So that one goes here. That one goes there. Right. Okay. And now they're all in here. And actually can get rid of this guy for now. And full screen out here. So now we have everything entered here. You can go back to the setup page one more time and just create update template. And basically ensures that all those lists that you created in our build. Now we can go to the builder section, which is like the main place you will work in on a daily basis when you have new campaigns and new ads that you want to create and have naming conventions for. So the first thing that we have to do is enter the URL of the that we want to link to. Right, that can be a home page, but also a catalog page and product detail page. I mentioned something in the article about checking whether there's a question mark in the URL already. The template does that for you, so you don't have to worry about that. We then pick the channel here. We only have Facebook paid in this one, so that's relatively straightforward. And now we can see here that, well, our logic was built into this template, right? So for the geography here, also have a drop down because I said it was going to be a drop down. And now I want to target the German market with this one. The current month is 2021-08. So also with dates in general, I would always advise you to work with like a, year, month, day logic because it's so nicer. Funnel position, let's call this a prospecting campaign. And just give this a name. I would say this one is called always on. Audience type. This is a broad audience, and audience detail is just targeting everyone. Let's call this all. And it could also be a lookalike customer 10%. So now we know, okay, this is like a lookalike of our customers and like with 10% version of that. We have a creative name, fancy dress party. This is the second iteration of this one. It's in a 9x16 format. It's actually a video. And let's say it's I don't know. It's an unboxing video and we're playing mostly of social proof. And we're linking that to a landing page. And our landing page is called fancy dress. I don't know. So that we know what we're linking to. And now we can click here, create tracking link, which again runs a small macro, which essentially is just pasting all these values. Here we have the finished tracking link. with all the UTM parameters already appended to it, just like you need it. So if you just need to add a fully tracked link somewhere, you can just use that. But I also wrote about in the article how most of these tools actually use auto tagging, which is a nice feature you should be making sure, because that ensures also that it's going to be matched 100% between your UTM Google Analytics data and, for example, your Facebook ad account data. So use auto tagging wherever possible. But then for that, you don't need a fully tracked link, but you need the different parameters. I can copy over this guy here to name my campaign in Facebook. I can copy over the term or to name my ad set, and I can copy over the content to name my ad, and then just make sure that I have the auto tagging like I talked about in the blog article, set up on my ad so that everything is named correctly in the UTMs are basically built out of these guys here, which essentially is the same thing I have done here on top. Yeah, and that's how the UTM builder works. So again, quick recap, you can set up your base logic in the setup sheet, click update template. You can go to lookup and enter all the options that you want to have for the various lists. Go back to the setup and click update. And then once you've done that on a daily basis, you open the builder section where you can configure the different options from your lists and create the tracking links, and then copy the things over as you need them and where you need them. And they will make sure that everything is tracked 100% and can be used later to analyze your data, see what is working, identify macro trends, and really help you to grow your business to the next level. If you have any questions, just let us know. We're always happy to help.